Hi, I'm Tonya Caruso. Welcome to Comcast Local Edition. An elderly woman sent to jail for not paying her sewage bill. Is there a better way to handle situations like that? Well, joining us in our studios this half hour is State Representative Jesse White. Thank you so much for coming in and talking with us today.
Thanks for having me.
This was really quite a story that made headlines all over the region. It
was, and unfortunately, it wasn't as much of a shock as I think it could have been to those of us that really follow a lot of these issues. If you look at a lot of these municipal authorities that deal with water and sewage issues, they're a very odd little component of government because they're appointed boards that have an immense amount of power, as we've seen based on what happened down in Charleroi, but there's very little accountability. They're not elected. They're not directly accountable to the voters or the people that they represent. And as a result, I think it's a perfect example of when you give a group of people too much authority with too little accountability, this is exactly what can happen.
Right, but it was ultimately, right, a magistrate who sent the woman to jail.
Right, and the problem is, the magistrate was simply following the law. And that leads me to the fact that we need to change that law, because what it did was, instead of putting a lien on the person's house or one of the other established ways to force someone to pay a municipal bill, what the municipality chose to do was to bring a criminal action against somebody for failing to pay the bill. And to me, that's absolutely, it's so morally wrong, I can't even put it into words. If a municipal authority can't afford to make themselves run correctly without throwing people in jail for not paying their bills, they need to look at their own expenses, they need to get some new people on there, and they need to figure out a better way to do business, because this is just reprehensible.
So what would your new legislation do?
I'm working on legislation right now that would quite simply make it illegal for a municipal authority to pursue criminal action against an individual for non-payment of a utility bill. I mean, this is ridiculous. It's 2010. If you don't pay your electric bill, if you don't pay your cable bill, if you don't pay any of your other bills, they don't haul you off to jail. We don't have debtors' prisons anymore. And by allowing this little loophole that municipalities could take advantage of if they choose to, and unfortunately there are some out there that have chosen to do it, we've created a system where there are still debtors' prisons in America in the 21st century, and that's unacceptable.
Do you feel like this was more of an isolated incident, or do you know of other cases like this throughout the state?
There are other cases, and actually there are some cases right in my legislative district in Washington County where people haven't been sent to jail, but they have had to go to the magistrate on these criminal charges for failure to pay on at least 2 different sewer projects that I know of. And people have come to me and said, how can this be? How is this possible? And it just blows my mind that this would, A, that this would be allowed to exist, but B, that these authorities would be so heartless and so inhumane to be able to actually take this step. It blows my mind.
And so what's the reaction been in Harrisburg, and what are your colleagues saying? And is this something you anticipate that you can get support for on both sides of the aisle?
I would hope so. I mean, I can't imagine an elected official who would come down in favor of debtors' prisons. Well, actually, I can't think of a couple, but I think the majority would be against it. But
okay, good. Go ahead.
But the point is that this is part of a larger package of bills that I've been working on dealing with municipal authority reforms. There are a lot of things about these municipal authorities that really need to be regulated, that need to be looked at, and there needs to be some reasonable checks and balances put on the system to prevent these kinds of things from happening to innocent people.
And so what is the timeline here?
As soon as humanly possible.
Okay, so realistically in Harrisburg, what is the timeline here?
We're actually drafting this bill as we speak. My other municipal authority reform bills, I think there are 5 other ones. They've already been drafted, co-sponsored, introduced, and we're working to get those through the legislative process right now, hopefully before the budget picks up here in the next few months in Harrisburg, so we can really get some meaningful reforms done.
Have you had any conversations with these authorities about this?
I've talked to some municipal authorities, the ones in my district. They're not necessarily my biggest fans because they don't like being told what the deal is sometimes. But you know what? I'm elected by the people that I represent, and someone needs to look out for them. And if no one else is going to do it, then that's my job, whether the authorities like it or not.
Well, State Representative Jesse White, an interesting topic. Do come back, update us on this, then we'll talk about some other things.
Excellent.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
I'm Tonya Caruso. Thanks for watching Comcast Local Edition. We'll send you back now to HLN.